Hi, my name is Sonja Franz. I am the head of communications at Integernet, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today at the Hyvä Meetup number 4. 2 months ago, you might remember that we had gathered a part of this Hyvä community for an in-person event at the Hyvä camp, first of its kind. And you all showed us a lot how pumped you are about Hyvä, and we really enjoyed that a lot. And today we meet virtually, as we usually do for this Hyvä Meetup. And it's also, well, I think quite accessible for our global and growing Hyvä community. So we want to keep this as well. Now you may wonder, what is this Hyvä Meetup actually all about? In short, it's our meeting place for all things Hyvä. And whatever your experience with Hyvä is, this is the right place for you. It's a place to meet, and for the Hyvä community, it's a place to show the world what you've worked on, whatever has kind of connection to Hyvä. And today it's actually the turn of the Hyvä Themes team to show us what they have worked on. We all know that they're busy working behind the scenes sometimes, and today they're going to show us what it is. Everyone is welcome here, whether you have already gained some experience with Hyvä Themes, or even if you only just heard about it today and still found your way here. We appreciate that. And this Hyvä Meetup is intended as a place for sharing knowledge, because we think that this is beneficial for this Magento community that we are all part of, but especially also for this Hyvä community. And you are going to see me today a couple of times as your host, but also there's a team behind the scenes, very active, making sure that everything works. There is Andrea, just saw her posting a message in the chat, and there's also Anna behind the scenes, who has been very busy in preparing all the social media messages, so we got all of you here today. And then today, of course, you also see our speakers. There's 3 of them set up in 2 presentations. There is Vinai Kopp, the technical director of Hyvä Themes, with his first, he'll do the first presentation for today. And then there are Willem Pochtman and Willem Wigman for the second talk of today. One Willem is the senior solution engineer at Hyvä Themes, and the other one you may know as the founder and creator of Hyvä Themes. Today we will also set ourselves a new challenge, kind of really a challenge. So Vinai is at home and maybe doing some last minute preparations to get ready for presenting in a couple of minutes. He won't join us directly for this meetup and Hopin, which is kind of unusual. Usually he would be right here in Hopin, but still presenting from home. Today it's different because he needs to be in more than one place at this time. This update on Hyvä's roadmap is in such high demand that, we try to compensate, and that's why we created crossover together with the Magento Meetup in Stuttgart, lovely city in Germany. So Vinai session will be streamed to them and to us at the same time. And they also have a kind of worse than us with the challenge, because they have also people on site and remotely joining. That's tricky. So yeah, when Vinai's talk comes up, it will actually be me joining their session via Microsoft Teams. You'll see how that goes. All of your questions that you send in for Vinai, I'm going to send over to them so Vinai can see them and provide answers. And of course, we also have a couple of Willems here as backup for any questions. I'm sure they can answer them as well. And if not, then we'll get your answers. So today's schedule looks something like this. If you're in the Central European summer time zone, then it's 7:07 right now. Have a couple more minutes for the opening, then we'll give you some time for networking. I'm coming to this in a minute and just explain it further. Then there'll be Vinai's talk, afterwards the talk by Willem and Willem, and in the end there'll be the hangout. So time for all of you to get together, speak your mind, discuss however you like, either just in the chat or by sharing video and audio. So we're trying to give you more of a compact program, and then afterwards you can share all your thoughts around this if you haven't already in the chat or via the Q&A. This Hyvä Meetup is created and, well, sponsored by the main partner and co-creator of Hyvä, Internet. Very happy to have this meetup as a regular place for all of us to meet, even if we rejoined Hyvä Camp as well. And yeah, it's we're always happy for others to help us spread the word around this with the hashtag Hyvä Meetup. And we very much appreciate all of you doing this and also all of our speakers taking the time that it needs to prepare some great content for us all. If you're unfamiliar with Hopin, it's a virtual event platform. Right now, if you see me, you're in the main session. You can basically stay here pretty much the whole evening, and then you will at least get all the information you need. And this is the session that's also recorded, as you can see on the top. We have another session called the Hangout Corner that's not recorded. That's where you can share audio and video without any moderator getting in your way. And also on the right-hand side, usually if you're on a desktop, you will see that there is a chat and Q&A tabs for the session, but also for the event itself. So kind of depends on what kind of audience you just want to talk to and address. For some, it might be better to have a general message in the event chat. For some, it might be better to have a session-specific message. Yeah, talking about the Q&A tab, that's a really good place for you to send in your questions, because that way they won't get lost in the chat, and it makes it much easier for me to read them out to our speakers. And then we usually have the question of, will there be a Q&A? Yes. So after each presentation, we'll go through all the questions you sent in the Q&A tab and have the speakers reply. And also a question of if it's recorded. Yes. So as you see, main session is recorded and it will be published on the Hyvä Themes YouTube channel, usually within a day or two after the event. And then just asking all of you to, act like a decent human being. I know you're able to do that, and to respect the work of others. And as my colleague Andrea phrased it, be Hyvä. That's it. Okay, so it's 7:10 and we're pretty much right on time for the networking part, because this is a meetup after all. You can head over to the People tab on the left-hand side of your screen, if you're on a desktop. And then you'll see that there is a banner called Speed Networking. If you click Join Now, then you will be connected to one other attendee or organizer or speaker. And then you have 3 minutes to talk to each other, get to know each other. And in the meantime, we'll set everything up for Vinai's talk. And we'll send a message in the chat to get you all back here in time when we need you here. This message might look something like this. This was a test. All right. Please all go to the People tab, meet someone, have a chat, take this meetup part seriously, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes back here. So we have 3 potential meetings.
Do this remotely. I hope to be in this pretty cool room. I can just see the view on Teams. It looks awesome. So that's great. Also, I hope the whole syncing to the Hyvä Meetup is working. That should be happening right now. but I'll just trust that this works. Okay.
Everything
So,
okay? Ready to go?
From my side, yeah, I guess, but we'll see. I mean,
Everything is fun.
we have your video checking audio. All right, looks good. Okay, cool. Well, first, I would like to say I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here, speaking about Hyvä. Quick show of hands, who's familiar with what Hyvä is? Maybe. Okay. Oh, nice. Very good. Thank you.
Everyone here in the room.
Sorry?
Everyone here in the room.
Oh, all right, cool. So then let's jump right in. So let me share the screen here. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Writing documentation. So, okay. Oh no, that's also not what I wanted to talk about. This is what I want to talk about. That's better. All right, so cool. So what I'm going to talk about is what's on the roadmap. Actually, let me just move Teams over to the other screen so I can see a bit what's happening. That way I feel much more connected. Yeah. Okay, so unless somebody says something, I'll just assume you can see what I'm seeing. Anyway, Hyvä, much more than a theme. It's actually, as you know, the theme, we have the whole tooling around it that we're continuing to build out. Also the whole community, mainly in the Slack community, but it's starting to kind of manifest in the real world too. So through meetups like this one, I guess, even though I'm not there in person right now, but also we were at Meet Magento UK, for example, or we had the Hyvä camp, which was a lot of fun and pretty nice. So it's really a lot of fun. And for me personally, the community is really an essential part of what makes Hyvä what it is, right? Actually, the whole ecosystem, right? All the people working with it, supporting it in different ways, like Peter Jaap with testing, all the contributions that are coming in. It's it's really quite something. So that's Hyvä. For me, it's like the one missing piece to what made Magento really an epic platform to work with. So the main focus of everything that we do is e-commerce made happy, which includes developer happiness, which is why I love my job pretty much, right? So we focus on making people happy, and my job specifically making developers happy. So during the last 12 months or so, since Hyvä was released, it was released about 1.5 years ago now, but it's been about a year that I started working with Hyvä as part of Hyvä. And since then, a lot has happened, actually. Right, so we introduced many tools that can be used by developers if they want to, like sliders for product or for anything pretty much, and modals and confirmation dialogues. So little things that just make the life as a developer easier. We have a backported X-intersect plugin to Alpine, which makes it possible to very easily trigger actions when something scrolls out of the viewport or into the viewport, things like that. Added new helper methods. We added just recently an advanced form validation library that was contributed by Macropedia. And so that's pretty neat. I'm personally pretty excited about it because it's something I was missing earlier. And most recent change, I think, was that we added the feature that allows merging Tailwind configuration and CSS from within modules, merging that into the Tailwind CSS configuration while a theme styles are being generated. So this makes it truly modular. So now after installing a module that's compatible with Hyvä, it's no longer necessary to adjust the content path or the purge path or something, it just works automatically, right? And so all these things make it just a bit easier, less things that are able to forget, less over time sync, and make it easier to things just work. And we'll continue to build on this. So the next step would be, for example, allowing an automatic merging of template files from parent themes if the template files aren't overridden in the current theme, right? So that will make it easier to work with hierarchies of Hyvä themes with the Magento fallback. We use a lot of view models, so PHP view models. We recently introduced a PHP card as a second card page implementation. We have a lot of documentation that we are continuously adding to, and we have a lot of compatible modules. It's actually more than 140. It's more like 100 and almost 80 now, because we have a lot of vendors now that support Hyvä for many of their modules out of the box, which is very nice. So a lot already has happened, and the reason why I wanted to pick this up was I've discovered that when I talk with developers who looked at Hyvä maybe a year ago, maybe did a project or so, many people aren't aware of all the things that have happened since then, right? So just to give you an idea, like, okay, stuff is moving and a lot is happening actually. So if there's something there that you aren't familiar with yet, have a look at it. It's all documented. So let's look at the roadmap. What's coming up? So right now, I'm working on setting up continuous integration for our GitLab repositories. This is something that I've been wanting to do right from the beginning, but we always have to make choices what to work on first. No, right? I can't do everything at once. So I'm pretty excited about it, finally taking the time to set this up, and I believe this will be a big step in regards to, well, professionalism, let's put it that way, avoiding regressions, etc., pp. And that will include simple things like coding standards that will automatically be also applied to any compatibility models and such. But of course, also all the PHP unit-based tests, and also the Cypress tests that Peter so generously open sourced PDR. So that's something that's currently being built. And yeah, that should be out relatively soon. And the reason why I chose to build this right now is, well, of course, I've been wanting to do that for a long time, but I'll jump over one point here. So what I'm actually working on right now is the update of Alpine.js and Tailwind CSS to version 3. I'll talk a bit more about that later. Now, unfortunately, the version 3 of these two libraries that Hyvä depends on contains some backward incompatible changes. So that's why this will be Hyvä 1.2. And having continuous integration in place will make it a lot easier to actually do this, right? It'll save time pretty quickly. So that's why I thought, okay, I'll first set up CI and then I'll do the update. And what we'll do is we'll provide some tooling that will hopefully automate the process as much as possible to update a theme to Alpine and Tailwind version 3. And after this, the next thing, which I've also started working on together with many others in the community here, but I really want to focus on that, will be improved Adobe Commerce feature coverage. Currently, we started the effort, we've got some things in place, but there's still quite a bit of work to be done there. That also includes not specifically Adobe Commerce features, but features that are available there, like live search and product recommendations, and other features that are one of these Adobe services. So they work with Hyvä out of the box there. Interestingly enough, we're working with people from Adobe on supporting some of these features, like product recommendations and such. So yeah, that's very promising and very nice. Also, of course, a lot of the work to support these features already was done as a part of our Hyvä community, which I'm very grateful for too. So these are things that I think are mostly interesting for developers, maybe, right? But there's also some things coming up, which are probably interesting from a more business perspective. So the next, we're going to release a couple of new products. First of all, the Hyvä Magewire Checkout will be coming up, and Willem Portman will be giving a talk at the Hyvä Meetup too. That's also going to be recorded. Maybe you already saw one. Maybe you saw one at the Hyvä camp. So anyway, that's coming up very soon, and that's a product that we're building with in partnership with One Step Checkout, because One Step Checkout has so much experience in regards to checkout and checkout customizations, specifically with Magento, but actually all over. So anything e-commerce checkout related, they've got a huge amount of domain knowledge. So we are very happy that we are able to work with them on this new product. So that is a joint venture, and that will be released very soon. And what that is, it's a checkout. So if you're not familiar with it, it's a checkout that's based on Magewire, which is a port of Laravel Livewire into Magento, also built by Willem Portman. And the idea is to have a checkout that's highly interactive. We have modals, all the stuff that happens on the front end, but the main focus is that it's really easy to work with for PHP developers. Right, this whole idea of building stuff in the back end, and it's kind of like magic. That's why it's called Magewire, I guess. Right. So all the stuff happens on the front end. It's really cool. I'm really looking forward to that being out there, and that will be coming soon. And the next product that we're building is the Hyvä UI library. We've been working on that with one of our employees for a good 6 months now. And the first things that we released in January or so, I think, were a couple of mega menus. And the idea here is that we have a library of PHTML components that can simply be used pretty much like Tailwind UI, if you're familiar with it. So they're copy and paste files that can be dropped into a theme, and they just work. The benefit over something like Tailwind UI is that they're already prepared for Magento. So if I take a Tailwind UI component, I still have to put in the logic that it renders whatever data Magento applies, right? It's just like a dummy. But these actually already work out of the box. So that will make working and building themes even faster. And we put a lot of emphasis on making sure that they're really easy to use and very customizable and versatile. And some of them will be PHTML templates. Some of them will be snippets that are intended to be used through the Magento admin to make it easier for merchants to provide content that looks good and fits into a page. And they also would be very easily integrated. It should be possible to integrate them into the next thing that I want to come to here, which are Hyvä widgets. So Hyvä widgets is a contribution by our partner agency at Vinai that got into Hyvä. So thanks again there. And it's basically a set of Magento widgets, which are still highly underused, we find. And we'll continue to improve this. So some of the people in the Magento ecosystem have built a lot of improvements and have offered to contribute them back. So we'll take those and pick the ones that make the most sense and work them into the code base. So yeah, that's going to be even more and more useful. Now, to be fair, when I first heard about the idea of adding in widgets, I wasn't very excited about it, right? Willem Wichman, actually, he immediately got it. But I was like, well, I don't know, I've got Page Builder and alternative third-party CMS systems. But it turns out widgets are actually extremely good. So a bunch of people that I've talked to, 2 or 3, were working with Page Builder mainly, and have started using widgets more and more, because widgets can provide those kind of constraints that Page Builder doesn't offer. So it's too easy to break stuff in Page Builder depends on the project, I guess. And building custom content types in Page Builder is quite a lot of work. So widgets provide a nice middle ground there. And I'm looking forward to improving that and making that even better. And finally, one thing that I want to announce, this is probably the first time I'm mentioning this in any kind of talk or such, would be that we're going to create a certification program, because there's so much there already. And I think by providing a certification for developers with Hyvä, what it does is it allows companies to show their specialization. Right? I don't think it's really the most meaningful metric for individual developers, which doesn't mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense at all, because I, myself included, really have used certifications as like a motivation to study on specific topic and learn about things. And that works for many people, I find. And also it's a common way to integrate something in a career path. But I think that this will lift Hyvä onto the whole ecosystem, onto again, a whole new level of professionalism. And that's something that's hopefully coming this year still. So these things are probably something that's maybe a bit more interesting from the business side, and of course developers too. But that's the next thing that we've got planned. One of the key features of Hyvä is, for me, that it really is this focus on helping developers to get the job done. And that's what I like calling simplicity. So for me, if possible, it should be possible to do something using just a single file, right? I don't want to create 12 files to add a checkbox somewhere. It should be one file and everything's in there. So that kind of fits nicely with the whole Hyvä philosophy of I've got a template file, and I've got the Tailwind themes in there, I've got the JavaScript in there, I've got the DOM in there. And of course, sometimes I need maybe a backend class or a PHP view model, but this is basically the goal. I want to make it as simple as possible to get the job done as quickly as possible. And maybe I should close this here. No, not right now. Okay. It's a bit blinding the light, but it should be okay. Anyway, so this focus on simplicity is something that also applies to all the new features that we're building. And the second thing is reliability. So we really want to not waste people's time, right? We want to enable people to use their time as well as possible. So for us, that means if we build something and release it as stable, we want to keep that working, ideally forever. So anything we do, we try to provide an upgrade path that is as little work as possible, and we keep our things backward compatible as long as we can. So far, everything has worked well in that regard. Now with the changes in the upstream libraries for Alpine and Tailwind CSS, we're forced to kind of incorporate those, so that will be some backward incompatible changes. But we're trying to make the upgrade as easy as possible. So we really strive for reliability, that you can build something with Hyvä and it will continue to work. One example here would be that the first card page that was in Hyvä was built on GraphQL and Alpine.js. And it turned out that it was kind of a pain point for many of the users. Not all, some people liked it a lot actually, but the problem is it's very different from core Magento, Luma. And GraphQL, that takes time to learn and is more complex, but even for people who are familiar with GraphQL, issue was that there are some inconsistencies between the GraphQL API result sets and what's actually being rendered if you use the quote model or the checkout card session or whatever in PHP. Total models, total titles, small differences, but these kind of inconsistencies between the different let's say views on Magento, GraphQL API, PHP API, just made it more work than it should be. Also, third-party extensions vendors trying to support the same features that they originally had built for the Luma cart. Well, it just took a lot more work building the same features again for Hyvä using GraphQL. So we decided to change that, and we built this PHP cart. Now, the PHP cart uses all the standard cart item renderers, for example, right? And so custom product types work out of the box a lot more easier, and making customizations work with the PHP cart is a lot less work, takes a lot less time compared to the GraphQL cart. So, but the GraphQL cart already is out there and being used in many projects, and there are many compatibility modules. So we didn't want to break backward compatibility here. So at the same time, we thought we want to make the new PHP cart the default. So new projects are encouraged to use that because we think it saves work. So what we did was we moved the GraphQL cart into an extension, and we will continue to support that. And if the extension is installed, the GraphQL cart is active, and indeed it can be configured to be active for individual store views only. So then it's possible to switch between GraphQL cart and the PHP cart for different store views or websites. And we also ensured that it's possible to write compatibility modules. So modules that support both carts at the same time, that there's not a conflict, right? So no shared template file names and block names and these things. And we try to make it as easy to make that as possible. Yeah, so that's one example for how we focus on reliability. So going forward, we will continue to support both carts, and we will hopefully help all the extension vendors to also support both carts and the compatibility modules going forward. So that will, of course, take time, I guess. But I built a few compatibility into a few modules that use the cart page, and it was pretty fast supporting the PHP cart in addition to the existing support for the GraphQL cart. So yeah, that was pretty good. Okay. Yeah, this goes into the same vein as the whole idea of reliability. Many of the other front ends that are updated a lot, they break backward compatibility a lot, and they struggle to keep up with the fast-moving JavaScript frameworks. So just today, I think a new JavaScript runtime was added, and it moves extremely fast, and we really try to offer stability here, right? So, for example, currently we still are on Alpine 2.8, so that's current version 2 of Alpine, even though Alpine 3 was released almost a year ago. And this actually has a lot of benefits because Alpine 2 is very reliable, right? It's performant, it works well, and not breaking things is more important to us than chasing the shiny new things. So if we upgrade too soon, it will just introduce a lot of disruption into running projects. Right? Trying to build a project while also updating the underlying framework is painful. At least that was my experience. So we want to take a much more considerate approach. We don't mind using something for, like we do in this case, for a year here, and then we really want to focus on making the upgrade as simple as possible by, probably a bunch of scripts that you can run that will replace or refactor the code as much as possible. So least amount of friction and frustration here, least amount of time spent on upgrades, which of course saves a lot of money for the merchant end. So yeah, Peter Jaap, nice quote from him. So we launched our first store 1.5 years ago. They were one of the very first to start writing using Hyvä, and they kept it up to date. And so far, it never broke. So lovely quote there, like it a lot. And we strive to keep it that way, right? We really want to make things work well there. Okay, so that's all that I've got. That's what we've currently got planned. We've got a lot more ideas, but that's all that we've committed to for this year. In addition, of course, to further documentation updates, quality releases, etc. pp. And that also includes, of course, contributions by our lovely community. So if there is a pull request somewhere, we will be very happy to include those too into the core of Hyvä. So probably there's still a few minutes time. Any questions?
So first of all, thank you very much, Vinai, for this presentation. Highly appreciated that you are able to join us online. Maybe I will start with a quick question, but feel free to also ask your questions here or in the chat. I have a question. You mentioned that you are in discussion with Adobe guys about Adobe Commerce features. Can you share some feedback of the Adobe guys? What do they think about Hyvä and the whole community and the product? Can you share some thoughts?
Yeah.
How do you feel like about it?
Yeah, of course. So I think there's not one clear message there, right? I think they very appreciate the rejuvenation of the Magento community that was triggered by Hyvä, all the positivity that what got injected into the whole ecosystem. So that's great. A lot of people have actually said that the reason they decided to continue working with Magento is because of Hyvä and everything around it. So that's really nice. And a lot of people inside of Adobe feel the same way, right? They love the Magento ecosystem and everything about it. So they also appreciate this a lot. And it also, I mean, you know, they've got their own roadmap, especially in regards to PWA Studio and things, and who knows what else they're building. I don't know. So not everybody thinks that Hyvä is the only best way forward, like I do, right? And that's totally fair. People have different priorities, prefer different approaches, and everything. So that's cool. I would say all over it's positive. So right now the idea is to use some of their new APIs that they're building for their new services, and they really want to make them as developer friendly as possible. So they thought, hey, why don't we maybe ask some people from Hyvä to check their thoughts on it, right? So and work with them. And yeah, so that's something that I'm looking forward a lot. Next week they have the summer, I don't know, like the whole company, everybody's on vacation for a week, so that nothing will be happening there. But hopefully the process will continue the week after, and we can, you know, so I'm in direct contact with developers from Adobe there. So I think all in all, probably a bit of a mixed feelings depending on whom you talk to, but in general, very positive. It's been a very constructive relationship with Adobe, I feel, in both ways.
That's fantastic. So Sonja just posted a ton of questions. I will try to read them, but raise your hand if you also have questions here in the room. So I will try to. Sorry, I'm not fast enough.
I can see the questions in the chat, I think, so yeah. I can read them there. But if somebody has a question in the room, I'm happy to take that first too.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be curious about the project that you would recommend Hyvä for. Would you say it also fits a really huge, complex projects, or does it take too long to cover not existing features? Or would you recommend it more for smaller, easier projects?
You mean like, for example, B2B features and such?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of B2B Adobe Commerce B2B sites running on Hyvä. It certainly is work to make them compatible. After we worked on the Adobe Commerce feature coverage, the next step will be also working on B2B feature coverage, right? No ETA there though, right? So one step after the other. We can't do all at once. It really depends. So the existing B2B sites, I've seen 3 that I can recall right now. They only used a subset of all the Magento Adobe Commerce B2B features. So, of course, there's also still work to make those compatible, but by just supporting the features that I actually used or needed, well, yeah, that makes it much more feasible. So there's no easy answer, right? I think given the sites that exist, there isn't a real limit. It depends on the budget and the individual project. In theory, it's suitable for any complexity of builds that Magento supports. We can use Hyvä with it, or that Adobe Commerce supports.
Okay.
Is that okay as an answer?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, cool. All right.
I have a question. Vinai, as a front-end developer, I totally expect the Tailwind version 3. Can you give the time box when it will be available in your version 1.2?
Yeah, sure. So we're not giving out dates. So we're not promising dates. That's one of our company policies. Of course, internally we do speak about dates, but I can't give you by this date we'll have it released. So all I can say is I'm working on that right now in the context of setting up CI. Okay. I hope that's good enough. So I really want to get it out of the door very quickly because a lot of people want it. All right.
Okay.
Good question. Fair.
So I also would like to ask, so a lot of companies are actually using AEM, Adobe Experience Management, as a content repository. And they have some kind of an integration with TWO Studio, I think, where they offer, I think it's called Rich Component or something, which you can pass directly to that has this integration. So could something similar work with Hyvä as well? Or
yeah, well, to be fair, I've never worked with AEM. I know people who are working on it, and I know of projects that are using AEM and they still want to use Hyvä for their commerce sites because not everybody needs AEM level for a small merch site or something, right? So it really depends. That's all I can say about it. Unfortunately, again, I don't have experience myself how that would look like technology-wise. I mean, as a developer, my gut feeling is everything is possible, but it's always the details. So I don't know how much work it would be. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I can take some questions from the chat. So
First question there.
The first question would be that I can see is, will there also be a course certificate for solution specialist? I have no idea about that at the moment. If there's a need, sure, but let's do one thing after each other. So the first thing definitely will be a developer certificate. Yeah, I mean, if that's a good idea, sure. I don't know. Secondly, second question, is the B stuff also covered?
That will be covered by Willem. So you can move on to Thomas' question. Any status update for Hyvä admin forms?
Oh, okay. Damn, yeah. That's something that's actually that I would really love to finish. No status update though. That's a quick answer. I'd love to do that, but I can't.
And then
Yeah, okay. As you can see, Willem answered some questions there. Yeah. Question 4, I like the future for Hyvä admin as it seems to be quite stagnant. Yeah, that's a fair question and observation. It is stagnant. The problem is time, right? I really think it's something. Okay, so before I was part of Hyvä, I was writing a lot more production code for projects. So I needed Hyvä admin. That's why I built it originally, right? It's scratching my own itch. Now I'm part of Hyvä, so I'm writing other kind of code. I don't need to build backend forms as much anymore, or pretty much any much at all. I still want to finish it though, because I remember how much I hated building them with the core Magento stuff. So Yeah, I really want to get back and do it. It's not that I haven't abandoned it. It's just a matter of time, and then stuff happens like, okay, I was out for 3 or 4 weeks because of COVID, and that doesn't help either on no front. So yeah, that's all I can say about that. It's not that I want to get back to it, but I have to find the time. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question regarding Alpine.js. Did you experience with growing when you start a project and everything is super fast? And did you experience any performance impact that it got slower by time because of all the features that the customer wanted to be implemented, and then
Yeah, sure.
Or does it also depend on whatever the developers, if they are good or make, yeah.
Yeah, you're spot on there. Absolutely. So Alpine, of course, doesn't magically make a website faster. It really depends a bit on how it's used. It's still possible to write render blocking code, lots of it. It's possible to create a ball of mud. It really depends on something. It's possible to render megabytes of DOM content, even though it's hidden. So quite often I think if some very complex functionality is being built for a page with Alpine, just like pretty much any kind of JavaScript, what happens is the page gets slower or less responsive in terms of interactive. And then we have to take steps to mitigate, right? To make it faster again, to make it more interactive again, and to make it render quicker. And that's of course possible. So there are a number of typical solutions for some of these problems, at least. I mean, nothing fits all problems, but using a template with XIF to exclude parts of the DOM so the browser doesn't really care about them can make things a lot quicker instead of just hiding things with XShow, for example. That's like one of the classic approaches if you're rendering, for example, a huge menu and don't need all of it being displayed at the same time. And then with template, just injecting those part of the DOM that are actually being visible. So the browser only sees those, can make it quicker. But yeah, I don't know. It really depends on how it's possible, on the specific use case, maybe. Yeah. Okay, answer?
Yeah, okay.
I just see one more question here. Is there a public roadmap of individual features on GitHub so you can see the progress? No, at the moment there isn't. Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. Maybe we should, but the problem is if we publish a roadmap without dates, it's kind of, people won't be satisfied either. Right, so, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure when you have to switch over for the Hyvä Stammtisch Meetup.
Yeah, sure.
But I highly appreciate your time. And thanks for joining us here, the audience, both here on site and also online. Well, it was a pleasure having you, and hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you all in person soon too. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was it with Vinai's talk. I hope we got all questions answered. I know that Willem has picked up some here. And talking about Willem, we are ready to head straight over to the next talk. So for the audience, take a breath. And I would like to ask Willem and Willem to join me here. Click on share video audio, and then we can have you, or Willem Bigman first. Whoever wants to go first. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, I was still playing support. Finished typing.
It's a very important job, and it's hard to get right.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Well,
That
you
went
two.
reasonably well.
Yeah, I hope so for all of you. I mean, I had the direct audio input, but I hope that you all had it with very little lag.
Yeah, worked well.
Yep.
And now I learned a thing or two about Microsoft Teams, and I hope that I'm able to forget it soon again.
I don't know if you would want to do this more often in this construction. Maybe maybe you don't need to become expert in this particular streaming configuration.
No. I think there are better ways, but kind of with a bit of short notice and so on, it works. Okay, I'll leave the stage to you. I'll be audible whenever I see that something's amiss, and otherwise I'll just let you all have fun.
Cool. Okay, so slides should be provided by Willem,
Yes, sir.
the other. I'm not talking in third person yet. Still got enough sanity not to not to do that. Yeah, so happy that we have another community gathering here and a little informal chat about one of the projects that we've been working on, one of the products, I should say, that we've been working on for quite a while. I think it's almost up to 8 or 9 months that we've been actively working on this, and we already presented a first version of this checkout last October, I think, at the last Reacticon. Shout out to Jesse. So there we showed a quite rudimental but functional version of the Magewire Checkout, and one could wonder how you could spend another 8 months on finalizing that, because that looked quite ready already, but there was a lot of architecture that we wanted to tackle underneath first to really make this checkout the greatest experience for a developer you ever had building a checkout. And that's something you've never been able to say about, I think, any e-commerce platform, that you enjoy working on building and customizing a checkout. And that's where we've put all the focus for this product. And we actually refactored some of the main architecture 2 times. So it's the first, the third iteration of the architecture, mostly the layout system that we'll talk a bit more later. So yeah, we're building I think, great user experience, but also a great developer experience with this checkout. So in this session, we would like to give you an update on where the product currently stands and what we still are working on before we release the first version. So we'll quickly run through what the Magewire Checkout is, what Magewire itself is. Willem Portman will give a current state demo and show the roadmap of what is still ahead of us. So next. So the Magewire Checkout is a brand new checkout built from scratch with the underlying idea of introducing an enjoyable and flexible development experience. And I think the power of this checkout is that we move all of the logic to the back end, which is what Magewire basically does. So what a lot of checkouts do on the front end with JavaScript, building the whole current state of the cart in the front end to mirror that state with the back end, which is a huge overhead, mostly in calculation of the state in the front end. And that all moves to the back end with Magewire. So that's pretty fantastic. Could you go to the next one? So the Magewire checkout is less complex. As I said, the state is managed in the backend. It's very familiar to PHP devs because it's Magewire, but to learn how Magewire works goes pretty quick. All the logic that's built there heavily relies on the existing Magento architecture. So you'll be using classes and dependency injection, and just work with the card session and all the models that belong to that. This is something that happened along the way while we were building this product, and we saw the potential and how great this product could become. We realized that we would be competing with one of our partners and good friends, One Step Checkout. And we believe cannibalizing your own market and your own partner ecosystem is harmful. Not great for all parties involved usually. And so we talked to them and we said, what do you think if we build this together and you join us and add all of your knowledge into this product? And that means that they can bring those 13 years of experience building checkouts from Magento 1 and Magento 2 into this product. And that helped us iterate on a few of the core concepts ahead of releasing it. I think normally we would have released it and then got the feedback from merchants and agencies and then fixed some of the issues that they ran into. And now we got all the insights from Anton and Chinlan from One Step Checkout to build the best possible checkout experience there. So this is now a full collaboration, and we'll be putting this into the market together. We're building this Hyvä first, but we'll also make it compatible with Luma. So once you make the switch to working with this checkout, you'll never have to touch the Luma checkout and the UI components again. And this is a commercial product, which means we'll also invest heavily into building the ecosystem or the integrations that are needed for a good checkout. We'll put a lot of energy into making those payment methods compatible, and shipping integrations and autocomplete on address field, all of those integrations that are important for you. That's today is still reason for people to choose the Luma checkout, because then you already have all the integrations. We also have the React checkout, of course, but a lot of these integrations are still missing. But that's still a valid product if you have React developers. You need to build a very custom checkout experience. But we saw that a lot of our customers are not that JavaScript heavy and are very much invested in building PHP applications and enjoy doing that a lot more than building JavaScript apps. So that's why we saw that we really needed to build this additional checkout. You'll probably have a question about pricing for the checkout, and that's something that we are hopefully announcing pretty soon. We're about to finalize what pricing structure that will be included with the Magewire checkout. If you're familiar with One Step Checkout and a pricing model, it will fit somewhat into that structure. So what's the next slide? Are we switching already? No. So the system stack. Well, I think it's okay if you already take over here, Willem, because this is why you already know more about this than me.
Yeah, sure. So hi guys, thanks for having me. So yeah, the system stack of the Magewire checkout. It exists of a brand new checkout API, which will give you the power to easily create, override, or clone existing checkouts. Also, you can create, override, clone, or remove steps of new checkouts or existing checkouts. I'm not gonna do a deep dive on that in this session, but believe me, it's pretty awesome. We have step conditions where it will enable you to, as a developer, to show or hide steps based on conditions. We give you some pre-baked conditions. For instance, if your whole checkout is a virtual checkout, so you only have like virtual products, you can like hide the shipping step, for instance. So that's really powerful. And we build
I'm gonna interrupt you just wherever I have something to add. Sorry, or based on customer group that you say, well, this is a B2B customer, so we're showing an extra step that shows extra agreements, for example.
Exactly. Or you can like build your own conditions. So yeah, that it's pretty powerful, and it really works. And we build a kind of a new layout system. So we iterated over this for, I think, 3 times, Willem. Yeah. It's our goal was to stay as close as possible to what you already know from Magento itself. And I think we got a really powerful system where you still have layout XML. You will get like a layout handle for the whole checkout that you're building, but also you will have individual step handles. So you can like include components for the whole checkout. So components that need to be visible on each step, you can just put them in the layout handle of the checkout itself. But if you want to, for instance, remove a component or a block or whatever on a particular step, or you want to include a block on a particular step, you have your own handle, special for that step, and you can like do whatever you want. Which it's really familiar with Magento itself. So that's
we basically it implements the same power that you have with regular layout XML, but then not the UI components that are this wide, but like you would work with blocks and layout in regular XML files, you can just throw in steps and then throw a component into that step, and it still stays very comprehensible and easy to move things around. So it's almost like just working with layout XML, but we integrated that into the checkout layout.
Yep. So next to that, we have the front-end API. So this is like the JavaScript API, which includes validation, functionality, navigation functionality, order placement, payment method stuff, shipping method stuff, a custom evaluation API, which is kind of familiar to, or the same to the validation, but a little bit different. It's really component-based. And we have a messaging API, which will allow you to like throw validation errors or those kind of stuff. Currently, the components that do exist in the new checkout will be the coupon code, or like the discount code component. Shipping methods will be in there. Payment methods will be in there. You can add and edit shipping addresses based on if you're like a guest or a logged in customer. All the familiar components that are familiar to Luma will be in this new checkout. Also, we include system settings, which are very familiar to how you know them from one-step checkout. And we are also going to provide a migration tool. So if you want to migrate from one-step checkout to the Magewire checkout, then like Vinai said in the previous presentation, it's going to be pretty smooth to like migrate over. We have a Luma fallback option. So if you want Luma in one store and the Magewire checkout in the other, we enable that. And we also have a guest checkout experience like Luma has.
Yes, I said in the chat that we should say it's similar to one-step checkout, but if you use one-step checkout, the settings are familiar to you when you use it. because we took a lot of the, as it's a corporation, we took a lot of the admin settings that one-step checkout also offers. So you can add address fields and order them from the admin, and then it just works on the front end.
Yep.
So it's not only developer oriented, but we also build a lot of options into the admin to switch things around.
Yep. Okay, so we already switched. So this is like we can try this
more or less.
So a little deep dive into Magewire itself. So Magewire is an open source Magento framework built by me. It makes build dynamic interfaces simple without leaving the comfort of PHP or Magento's core layout and template systems. So yeah, like Vinai said in his previous presentation, it's a port of Laravel Livewire. So if you're familiar with the Laravel version, then this will pretty much work the same in Magento. So a basic example, if you have like a counter on the left, so this is just a regular div with a number in it, and we have a little button like an increment button. So the functionality we want to build here is when you click the increment button, the number needs to like increase to 2, 3, etc. So to show you a little bit of code, HTML wise, this is the only thing you have to do. So the Magewire variable will be available in all Magewire blocks. So you can like wire up every block in Magento as you want. I'll show that in the next screen. But you just get a count variable, which is a public variable. I'll show that also. And we have a wire click directive, which is pointing to an increment method in the backend. So this is just a regular class with a public function, which is called increment. And if it's clicked, then it will try to increment the count variable in the backend, and it will add it with 1. So it will become 2, and it will show 2 in the front end. So to wire up a block, you just pick a regular block, or you create a new one, and you just give it an argument with a name Magewire. It's a type of object, and well, you can throw in whatever object you like, as long as it's a Magewire component. And this is how the class looks like. So you have and this is pretty new in Magento, but you have like a public variable, which in this case is called count, and by default it's 1. So in the previous slides you saw get count. So this is like a magic method where you just get the value that is binded on the public variable. And we also have the increment method here. So when you click the plus button, it will try to execute the increment method, which will increase it by 1, and it will return the new state of the count variable, which in this case will become 2. So basically, when you click the plus button, currently the count variable is 1. You click increment, and then it goes into the life cycle. So I tried to like create a little schema of how this works. So first of all, when you visit the page, it will just render the page as you're used to within Magento. So it will just render the block with the template. And when you interact with the component, it will try to send a request to, so we call this a subsequent request, to the server. So when the customer clicks on the plus button, it will send the state. So basically it's stateless, but it will send the state along with the request, which in this current phase is still 1, but when it will return, the state of count will become 2. And also the HTML will be re-rendered server side, which will be sent along with the response and will be rendered on the page itself.
What's important to add there is that the first step is just a server-side render. So it's not rendering the page and then loading data from Magewire. It only does an additional request once you interact with the component. So it's not like your whole page is suddenly fetching all this stuff through Ajax. So it's super performant because the initial page load is just like a rendered Magento page. But then once you click the plus, then it starts to interact with the server.
Yep.
So performance-wise, this is still very fast.
Yep, good addition. Yeah, it's basically just rendering like Magento renders templates. So it will only make a request to the backend when you interact with it. So yeah, when you click the plus button, the count variable basically will get a new state, and in this case it's 2. When you click it again, it will become 3. So yeah, that's basically what Magewire does, and of course this is a really basic example of what Magewire has to offer. I would really want to invite you into the docs of Magewire itself. There are a ton of features which will really speed up development, and I really get great feedback of people working with Magewire, where, for instance, someone built this feature where they first needed, like, this was I think it was like a quick order feature, and when they built it regularly with Magento, they needed like 70 plus hours, and with Magewire they only used 14 hours. So yeah, it really proves its belonging in the Magento community, and I really hope it will grow over time, where I will try to like support Magewire as much as I can and build new features along the way. So yeah, demo time. Of course, at ReactorCon we showed a really rough version. Everything was working, and it was also working with Magewire, but Magewire at that stage was also pretty rough. So both things are in a better shape currently. So Magewire is already used in a lot of production shops currently, and so yeah, that's stable. And what we're about to show you is 3 checkouts, and believe it or not, these checkouts were built in, I think, around 30 minutes or 45 minutes or so. So yeah, that's pretty impressive if you ask me, in comparison to when you want to change something in the Luma checkout. So yeah, I'm gonna switch over. So currently I'm logged in. I'm logged in as a customer, and we have one product in the cart. I will just add another one. Add to cart. Here we go. And when we go to the checkout, well, this is not the Magewire checkout. This is the Luma fallback. So this is just regularly Luma. And if we now want to switch to a Magewire checkout, I need to say, then we just go to the configuration settings. So under Hyvä Themes, we have a checkout tab. And under general, you can now select whatever checkout you wish for. So by default, we from Hyvä will provide a default checkout, which will include all the components that I just mentioned. So yeah, let's switch to the Hyvä default. So I'm gonna save this. And when I refresh, there you go. Welcome to the Magewire Checkout. So we try to make it as familiar as possible to the Luma one. So yeah, you have your shipping addresses. You can like switch address. Performance will be a little bit slower because I'm currently presenting. So yeah, everything is locally. So performance will be a lot better when I'm not presenting. But yeah, you can switch addresses. It will make requests to the backend. You can edit your address, all the familiar stuff that you recognize from Luma as well, like this little question mark for the phone number. You can save it. You can cancel the modal. You can add new addresses, so you get a clean slate. You can save the address. You can basically set it as the default shipping or the default billing address. So all the familiar stuff is there. We have the shipping methods. So currently we only have 4. And when I switch a shipping method, Magewire will also update the order summary. So how that works, I'm not gonna go into deep technically, but basically each component that you see on the page is on itself standing component and is also swappable. So if you decide to create your own shipping methods components, you're free to do so. Still, all the required components that need to be refreshed when you like select a different shipping method will work. So it's basically swap the template like you used to in, well, Magento's layout system. And yeah, you're free to build your own shipping methods components, or maybe your order summary components, whatever you wish for. So yeah, currently when we switch, it will do a request to the order summary as well, and it will update the shipping costs, the grand totals, and a funny, or I think it's an awesome feature. So basically, when we now gonna switch steps, it will re-render server-sided the whole page. So it will re-render the whole component. But as you will see in the next step, the order summary is still here. So currently, it's expanded, but when we close it, we want to leave it in that state. Or if we close or we open the discount code, we want to leave it in that state. So when we now switch to the second step, as you can see, the discount code is still open, but it did refresh the whole page. So this is really powerful, and this comes out of the box with Magewire. Magewire will only switch the HTML that changed during like the subsequent request. So when an update comes in, so in this form, it will be a new step. It will compare the DOM with the previous DOM, and if the discount code component was there and it's still there, it will leave it as is. So that's really powerful. So when we open it and we go back, it's still open. So yeah, that's a pretty cool feature, and yeah, I really love it. So yeah, everything is working. I think we have a meetup free. Yep, here we go. So you only pay shipping currently, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, we can use the same billing address as the shipping address. So it will change to the shipping address. Payment methods as you're used to. So yeah, these are the payment methods. This is all still work in progress, so not all the payment methods are implemented as you will used to, but we are working on that. So when we enter a purchase order number, and we also can enter a order comment. It will save automatically thanks to Magewire. We have a ship to summary and a shipping method summary. And as you can see, and that's maybe important to notice, so in this second step, we wanted to show a order comment field. So this field wasn't here in the first step. And what we basically did is we took the layout handle of the second step, so review and payments, and we said, well, reference the summary block and include a block which is called order comment. Give it a template, bind like a Magewire component onto it if you like, and it works out of the box. If you don't need it, just reference the block, remove it, and you're good to go. So in this case, we can like place the order, and we'll try to place the order. And there you go, we placed an order. So now when we go to a second checkout, which I built in like 15 minutes, first, let's go to the current checkout. Here we go. So now when we switch to the Hyvä Meetup checkout, I can save it. And when I refresh, there you go. So not a lot of stuff changed. The only thing changed is basically the title of the first step. And also we now have a third step, which is place order. So this is just, I thought of, well, let's just include a step and include a block with a template and just send a message to all the viewers here. So that's what I did. First of all, just to show you how easy it is, I changed the title of this shipping step. We pick an address. We pick a shipping method. We proceed. And as you can see, the navigation will manage itself. So when there's like another step, it will not show the place order button until you're at the last step. So yeah, we can select purchase order again. 1, 2, 3. We'll save it. So comment, there we go. And yeah, this is all good. Proceed to order, and there we go. So smash that place order button. And currently, and this is a feature we built in. So currently the payment method is not on the current step. And because the payment method is responsible for placing the order, we needed to create a fallback system. So when it's not on the current step, it will use the fallback system to place the order. So that's still working.
So you wouldn't normally see this message. Yeah.
No. You will go to the success page as you used to. But for now, as I said, it's still work in progress. So yeah, you will just see a message here.
A lot of work went into writing the APIs for capturing the payment, because if you're familiar with the way that payments are being captured in a checkout, it could be during the checkout, once you fill out the data, or after you click it and you redirect it and then you come back and it's captured, or it could be captured exactly at the moment that you place the order. So for all three scenarios, we built in the payment API to hook with your custom payment method. You can hook into where you want to actually capture the data and set it to Magento, to your quote.
Yep. So yeah, as you can see, this is but it's a different checkout experience. And now, when we want to spice things up a little bit more, we change it to the Hyvä Meetup one page. And this is inspired by the one-step checkout. So what I basically did before I'll show you is I grabbed all the components together and put them in one step. So when I refresh, there you go. These are all the components that you saw previously, but now just ramped up in one page, basically. As you can see, because it's not a multi-stepper anymore, the breadcrumbs are gone. So that will be done automatically. And I also switched, thanks to layout XML, I switched the shipping methods to the center column. So this is like a 3-column layout. And in our layout API, you can select a layout for each step, and you can select a global layout for each checkout. So if your checkout is by default 3 columns, you just apply it into the layout. You just tell it it's 3 column. And when you're on a page where you need 2 columns or maybe 1 column, you just apply it to the step itself, and it will automatically show a 1 or 2 column layout. So here I swapped the shipping methods to the center column. I moved the navigation to the order summary block. So yeah, just by moving elements. And also I moved the billing address from the center column to the left column. And this is all done by basically layouting as you know it from Magento. So yeah, pretty powerful, and yeah, it really works. I'm really proud we built this, and yeah, I really hope it will empower all the developers experience, because yeah, as Vinai said, that's one of our goals, to like make developers happy, and I get really excited about this.
The cool thing is that everything is truly modular, so you should see this as a blank canvas where you can just play around with layout XML and put anything anywhere. Like, one of the requirements is often to put billing first and then shipping second, or just have a whole separate step where your billing agreements are, or what literally whatever. You can just mix and match anything on any step that you want, and that makes it really, really customizable.
Yep. As I said, you can like swap components. You can change the layout. A cool feature that we build in is that you can inherit from a existing checkout. So what that means is, if you want to extend based on the default checkout, you can. You just tell your checkout, and it's really basic XML, but you just set a parent attribute with a value of the name of the checkout you want to extend from. So in this case, default. And if you reload the page and you enable your own checkout, you will get the same experience. If you need to include, for instance, your own components, that's really powerful, because you can still, for one store, use the default, and for the other store, use your own custom checkout. So that's really cool feature that we build in. So when I now switch back to the Hyvä default, and I go back to Magento, and I'll empty my carts, and we're just gonna throw in a yoga for life. Add 2 cards. There we go. And we go to the checkout. So hold on, let's go back. I'll show you. So what I'm trying to show you here is the conditions on virtual products. So now we have 2 types of products in our cart. We go to the checkout. here you have the shipping step. But when we go back to the cart and we remove this simple product, and we only have the virtual basically, when we go to the checkout, it won't show the shipping step. It won't even show the breadcrumbs, because there's like a condition on there where we just tell the checkout, if the cart only has virtual products, leave the shipping step out. So yeah, that's what it did. And now you only get like the billing, payment methods, and you can place the order. So yeah, that's how powerful that feature is. Looking into
And that's extendable to add whatever condition you want with just the PHP function method.
Yeah, you can just add a clause and you can write your own conditions if you want to. And as I said, we can provide, or we will provide, some basic conditions like, is the customer logged in? Is it a guest? So yeah, you can expect that from us. So yeah, we have some custom options. So you can like tell the checkout to restart or refresh. So when the customer refreshes the checkout, does it need to like start over? Yes or no? We moved all the components into this component section. So each component will have its own section to make the overview a bit more clear. So we can disable, enable coupon codes. This is familiar from one-step checkout. So we can just swap fields. We can change the length of the fields, and that all works dynamically within the checkout itself. Default values. So yeah, what you're used to from one-step checkout is also in this checkout. Also for billing, order comments can be enabled or disabled. Newsletter subscription. This is a feature that's currently not supported. It only has a system setting. Enable or disable breadcrumbs. Enable or show the back button, yes or no. So if you want to enable or disable the visibility of the go back button in the navigation, a little button in the breadcrumbs to tell a guest it can still sign in or register. And the order summary, you can tell if it's allowed to unvault and the limit for it. So yeah, these are really common features you would require in the checkout. So yeah, we built them in by default, really to like speed up the whole experience. There are a lot of more features to show, but I really need to look at the time.
I was about to say, if you ask two items to do a presentation, why did we block 25 minutes for that?
Yep, that's a disaster. So yeah, what's coming up next? So currently we're in an alpha stage. So we have a select group of developers who are already working with a alpha version and giving us feedback on where to improve. We're about to release a 004 alpha that's almost ready. So we really hope to push that this week or maybe in the start of next week. A really important thing is that we need to write documentation. So before we're gonna release this, documentation needs to be in place. Otherwise, it's not hard to start with the checkout, but hey, documentation is everything, right? Default components are nearing completion. As I said, not all components are ready, but getting there. And then it's a lot of testing all the functionality, the UX, does it all work? And we really need to look into performance. Performance currently is really good, but I really think on both the checkout side, but also on the Magewire side, I can really create some gains there on performance. So yeah, really looking forward to make that possible. And then we're going to set up a closed beta group with I think the same people already in the alpha, including some others. And we try to gather as much feedback and bugs as we can, push them in as fast as we can, and yeah, alongside with the PSP integrations, yeah, then we're ready for an official release. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. And if you want to know more about Magewire, please visit the GitHub repo. And I would really appreciate it if you smash that star button. So thanks for having me.
And any existing Hyvä customer that wants to join in on the beta, please reach out to us and we put you on the wait lists. So we initially added 11, 12 agencies to the alpha test. And then once we have the beta ready, including the documentation, then we'll onboard beta users. So yeah, the more people that want to test at that stage, the better. So we're looking forward to it. I think we're more or less 4 weeks out before we can tag the beta version. We try not to mention dates, as Vinai said earlier, which is actually my yeah, something I rather not do because I don't want to overpromise. But I think we're quite near to finalizing the core features and releasing the beta, and then things still might be cleaned up left and right. But we're far enough to. I mean, you could build a production checkout with it today, so we shouldn't wait too long with releasing this as beta.
True.
Well, thanks everyone for sticking with us for so much longer than we put in the program. And Sonja, you should have learned by now that if at least you have me in there, 25 minutes is never going to work.
Yeah.
I will
yeah,
learn.
I guess.
I'm sorry.
But then we actually only planned to have Willem Portman as the speaker. So, but yeah, given that we saw his presentation at Hyvä Camp, we should have scheduled more time for this. But the good news is that I think you already answered at least one question about how to join the beta program by Sean. That is, be an existing Hyvä customer, client holder, whatever.
So just write me a message and I'll put you on the waiting list.
Okay. Gerhard asked, how do the error handling for the user looks like, and what will the customer see live on field, only on click to next step error message bars?
Yeah, so you have, as a developer, you have the freedom to just dispatch a flash message, so a bar on top of the page, or you can implement your own like validation message inside of the component itself. We really try to give you freedom on that, but still try to make it as strict as possible. So yeah, you have a little bit of freedom there.
And Jordan asked if there are any options for automatic account registration for guests.
In the current version, there's not. But if that's a feature that is heavily requested, yeah, we should definitely.
It's one that we put in, but not for the initial version. So we'll make it basic feature complete and then build out with features like these, which I think one-step checkout also has the account registration option. And we'll implement that, but we're focusing on releasing it in a stable version first, and then built in these nice to haves.
Yep.
Thomas said, first of all, nice work on the Magewire Checkout. I think we all agree on that. How are the admin config values stored? Are the standard core config data functionalities used?
Yep.
That's a short answer. Okay. Question from Daniel. I know you will not tell exact release dates, but is there a time range for the release? And I think we just heard 4 weeks, and we're gonna...
For the beta version. And then it depends what feedback we get. But we definitely want to release this year.
A question from Nicolas. Have you tested this under heavy load? Since nothing can be cached and all the logic and rendering goes to into the backend, do you see any concerns performance-wise?
Not more than Luma. Luma also does AJAX requests. Like the initial render is server-side rendered, so that's not different than loading the cart or loading the current checkout. Or if you load the whole cart, currently we load the whole cart with GraphQL on the React checkout. So you also fetch all the cart data every time with every change, and that also works on a server load. So that's not a really big concern we have, but yeah, of course, like this will use a PHP thread to render data, and we're optimizing that. But yeah, we'll need to see on what the hardware requirements are under which server loads. The good thing with PHP is that you can always scale up hardware. So if you are a really high traffic shop, I gather you already look into optimized hosting and hardware. So yeah, we haven't fully tested it under heavy loads, but that's one of the next things that we'll look into, like why we can shave off performance gains.
I mean, you have a reputation of presenting high performance products to the world, so don't want to lose it. Question from Simon, actually two. The first is, what is needed to make a payment method compatible with Magewire Checkout?
So first of all, you just need to create a basic template for it. And then you're basically free to build whatever you want. So all the API stuff is provided. And if you need to like include different banks or whatever, yeah, you're free to do so. You even can create a React component or a Vue component. We don't mind. But yeah, all the API stuff is in place, so it's pretty easy to implement.
And there will be examples, like we're gonna invest in making payment methods compatible ourselves, and we're talking to the payment providers themselves. And if you still would need to do it yourself in a project, you could look at the other payment extensions that we will build and use that as a starting reference point.
Second question from Simon is the checkout success page part of Hyvä Checkout? And if it's not, if it can use a Luma fallback?
Yeah, it will fall back on the Luma version, as expected. Yeah.
Or Hyvä. I mean, it will go to the success page. So in Hyvä, that's just the Hyvä success page, and you can put it to the Luma success page.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you still have to register an account after placing the order option, if you have that enabled.
And Gerhard's paid special attention to checkout agreements. They were mentioned in the beginning, but he didn't see them in the test checkout.
True. Yeah, it's a feature that we still need to look into.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a component in progress, and not in the current version.
There was a working version of that, so it just needs to be finalized.
Yeah.
So it will be included, yeah.
Okay, Alexander asked if you could actually show the demo in mobile view. if that's already presentable.
Yeah, it's optimized for mobile, so.
Which is the last question on this session, I think.
No,
the next one
on...
is still from the.
No, it was sent in, I think, shortly after Vinai's talk. So
the Alpine plugins, that's from the last session.
Oh, you replied anyway, so that's good. But we got one new one. Two.
Payment
Sorry.
methods out of the box. Yeah. We're starting with PayPal and what's the other included? Then the next one will be Braintree, and we're looking into, or we're talking with some at least Dutch payment providers. We already have contact with MultiSafePay and Buckaroo, and we've been talking with Molly and Adjan. Those are the ones that we have on the radar currently, and we'll expand that as much as possible for you. But you can expect the core payment methods to be included.
Jordan wanted to add to Luke's question about the payment methods. How can we suggest payment methods that we'd like to see? Is there a way to upvote, for example? Would it be in a repo?
Not yet, but I guess we'll accommodate that. I guess will be a good point to start doing that when we open the beta version. We have regular meetings with the alpha testing group. We'll do the same with the beta testing group. So any popular payment providers that come up there, we'll look into the effort. And also we'll make a business case towards the payment providers themselves to work on compatibility. So that works two ways.
One more question about payment methods. Is the cooperation of the payment providers required, or can existing ones be patched easily enough? Thomas pointing out here that some of the existing, popular provider extensions are quite awful.
Yeah, I think so. There's one alpha tester that implemented the payment method even without us having documentation and still being on the alpha version. So let's just say it's very doable to create your own payment method. So if you dislike the vendor-based payment method, I think you'll be able to write your own version to your liking.
And I just noticed that Anton replied in the event chat that one-step checkout brings in those features regarding registration. So the question about how to get guests to register, that's then handled by one-step checkout. Okay, and one more question. Magewire Checkout is child of Luma or Hyvä default, or out of the box? From Mitesh in the chat.
It's completely separate from Luma.
Yes, and as we said in the presentation, we're building the Luma version first, and then we'll build a version for the Hyvä version first, and then we build one for Luma, and that will work without it. So you can just buy the Magewire Checkout and use it on Luma, but not in the initial version that we'll release first. That's a second step. But Magewire, in theory, worked with Luma, but that's we'll look into that at that point. But it basically means that in the front end you need to add your last SAS Luma CSS code instead of Tailwind CSS. So opinionated much, yeah. But so you'll be able to use it with Luma.
Yeah, and Magewire is already compatible with Luma. So if you like to use Magewire in a Luma shop, you can.
All the flexibility, and as Anton points out, it's Willem's mutual child. Okay, I think we can wrap it up here. All questions are answered. Any more questions? I'm sure you will find Willem or Vinai in the Hyvä Slack, or just send it to the Hyvä community. They are very responsive and know lots of stuff as well. I do have some more info. And that is that you might be wondering when the next Hyvä meetup will actually be. This is now time to get into a bit of a summer break. So we'll be back in autumn. And if you want to speak, I think we would be ready for some more showcases. Then please reach out to events@integer-net.de or me, Sonja, or my colleagues if you meet them, and ask them to pass on the message. We are happy to bring on anyone who has worked with their Hyvä project and wants to show it off. We're always happy to applaud. And if you plan to talk at one of the other Magento events coming up in the summer or autumn, then also we would like to know about this so we can promote, because we're a community here, we do that. There is still the call for speakers open for Meet Magento Singapore until the day after tomorrow, so hurry up. And the call for speakers for Meet Magento New York is open until August the 10th. And then I only really have, inviting you to stay in touch if you want to with IntegerNet. And I want to thank you all for joining. Thank you for our speakers here. Thank you to our audience.
I want to thank you again, Sonja, and the Integer team for hosting this session again and being a great partner.
Yep,
thank you. It's a pleasure. And we are not done yet completely with the meetup. Now it's actually time for all of you to head over to the Hangout corner. So if you go to sessions and the left on the navigation on the desktop, and then go to another session, then that's your chance to turn on your video, audio, and talk with everyone. I'll be there in a minute, and I think I need something to drink. I had asked the question if it should be energy or caffeine, pure alcohol. The, what was it? Orange Crush? Yeah. Sounded nice. Yeah. Oh, Vinai is here. Thank you, Vinai. It was an interesting endeavor with the crossover events. All right.
Well, it went great. Let's get into the after party.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all. See you in a second.
Bye-bye.